Hi, this is Trains and Transport. This is the first video in a series dedicated to retro buses from the Soviet Union. Meet the living legend of Soviet and Russian roads, Ikarus 280. Ikarus 280 is an articulated city bus of the very large class. Over 60,000 units were built, making it the most mass-produced articulated bus in the world. It's a national symbol of Hungary, just as the Globus canned peas and Rubik's cube. The legendary bus was in production for more than 30 years and was exported to 24 countries around the world. The brainchild of designer Laszlo Finti, the 200 series was designed in the late 1960s as a multi-purpose modular bus. The modular design made it possible to build both urban and intercity buses from standardized components, which enabled an economy of scale that was key to the success of the Ikarus series. Ikarus Model 280 is an object of special pride for the Hungarians and a cause of nostalgia for people who grew up in the Soviet Union. These buses were removed from passenger service in St. Petersburg in 2013 and in Moscow in 2014, while in some other cities such as Ekaterinburg, Saratov and Kursk, they could still be seen running on the lines in the 2020s. And now I'm inside, and I don't feel like I'm inside some kind of museum exhibit or in a retro bus. If it halted at a bus stop and opened the doors, people of my generation would hardly notice any differences from current buses at all. Here everything is familiar to a Soviet kid. Wide doors and the famous warning "door opens inside." These imitation leather seats, they have handles with thick rubber pads. And then there's the black rubber joint that got sagged and full of holes over the many years of service. And this never-ending squeaking of the articulation joint and this turning circle which would swing so wildly when the bus was making a turn. Add to this the weird-shaped plexiglass window behind the driver's seat and the rubber floor coating dotted with tiny circles. And this is the Ikarus bus from my childhood. Our regular viewers know that I'm not too much of an expert when it comes to all sorts of technical details. So today our old friend and retro bus expert Fyodor Chernousov will be giving us a hand with that. Fedor, your turn. I'm holding a real rarity in my hands. This is a key that was supplied with the bus. This is an indispensable thing for any Ikarus driver. It was called the square. What did it do? It could open any locks in Ikarus. For example, let's say we need to check the oil level in the engine. This key opens the hatch. This is a 6-cylinder diesel engine manufactured by Rabo, licensed by MAN, located under the floor between the front and rear axles. This engine was key to the unparalleled passenger capacity of Ikarus 280. It is located horizontally and turned 90 degrees, enabling a flat floor in the passenger compartment and spacious storage. Up to 180 people could fit in the bus during the rush hours. Former Ikarus drivers recall that the bus could easily carry 200 passengers. The engine powers the middle axle via a 6-speed manual gearbox. A small selection of 280s were equipped with a Soviet-built automatic transmission.
А вот это что такая рыжая штука? Это что такое?
What's this red thing? It's an oil filter. All Ikarus engines were originally painted green, so you could distinguish an original engine from a non-original one.
Моторы были зелеными, цвет блока у них был зеленый, и таким образом можно было отличить родной мотор от неродного.
Ikarus drivers were considered a privileged class among bus drivers in the Soviet Union. The driver comfort level in Hungarian buses was head and shoulders above that of Soviet-built buses. A comfortable suspension seat with wide armrests ensured optimal working conditions for the driver throughout the entire shift, as did easy-to-read gauges on the instrument panel and an adjustable sun visor. There was also a convenient sliding window to the left of the steering wheel, the handbrake at the driver's left hand, and, top of all, these multicolored door operation switches. The driver's seat looks like a regular steering wheel and controls. But when I was a child, I'd stand behind the partition wall and stare at it in awe. Of course, these color switches will be forever engraved in my memory. They don't have a Soviet feel to them, they feel more like Europe. And I'll never forget the sound of opening and closing doors. As a kid, I'd have given everything just to press these fancy switches. The total number of articulated Ikarus buses built is so big, and the palette of their modifications is so diverse, that we've easily selected what we believe to be the most exotic articulated buses made in Hungary. In our top 10, an articulated Ikarus with only 2 doors instead of the standard 4 is number 10. In fact, this is a suburban modification of Ikarus 280.03 once exported to East Germany. It had 60 seats, while the more common 4-door version had only 37. This modification was imported by Russia from Germany in the 1990s. Equipped with extra doors, they could no longer be distinguished from original Ikarus buses. The 9th place goes to the long version. The 18-meter-long bus was designed specifically for big cities. The number of seats decreased to 29, but the total number of passengers with a nominal capacity was 204 people. This figure is still not surpassed by any serial buses in Russia. Ikarus 283 is the longer version of 280. Here's one extra window and another in the driver's cab and another one in the back. These buses used to be in service in Moscow and as of 2019 still ran in Yekaterinburg. The rear axle is not steerable and has coupled wheels. On 280 the rear axle has 2 single wheels and is steerable. 283s were also in service in the cities of Novorossiysk, Obninsk, Saratov and Severodvinsk. Yekaterinburg, the third largest city in Russia, known as the capital of the Urals, was also the unofficial capital of Ikarus buses. In the 8th place is Ikarus 280.99 with passenger doors exotically located on the left side. It was built in 1974 for the former capital of Tanzania, the city of Dar es Salaam. Passengers on this bus should have had tons of fun watching the driver overrunning other traffic. Model 281 was also meant for left-hand traffic, but the driver's seat was moved to the right side of the cab. In addition to Tanzania, this model was exported to Indonesia and Mozambique. So how does an articulated bus work? Very simple. There's a tractor part providing the traction force, with the engine located under the floor that drives the middle axle. And back there is a trailer, which is connected to the tractor by a massive hinge, right here. The hinge makes the entire bus flexible, so it can turn and bend in the vertical plane easily. The rear axle has 2 single wheels that can turn as well. This is the most prominent feature of 280. There's a special rod that connects the rear axle to the hinge element. Thus, the rear wheels turn in a direction that is opposite to where the front wheels turn. And this angle depends on the angle of the hinge turn. This type of bus is built around the so-called pulling principle. The engine is located between the front and middle axles. the tractor part pulls the trailer part. This configuration was common in buses from the 1950s to the 1980s. A new trend in bus building was set in the 1990s, namely a low floor to simplify entry and exit of passengers, thus shortening stop time. In articulated buses, the pulling design was replaced with the pushing one. The engine drives the rear axle and is located behind it. Ikarus also built a bus of this type, Ikarus 435. A total of 365 of these buses serviced Moscow lines. The 7th place in our top 10 is occupied by an exotic horned Ikarus, the 280T trolleybus. The first Ikarus with electric motors entered service in the early 50s. Their design was based on Ikarus Model 60. The first 280 trolleybuses were built in 1974 to service Budapest. The rubber manned diesel was replaced with a Hans Electrical Works electric motor. A total of 373 articulated trolleybuses were built by Ikarus. Besides Hungary, they were exported to East Germany, Bulgaria, Ukraine and Estonia. Some may still be in service in the North Korean city of Pyongyang. But wait, we've seen horned Ikaruses in Moscow, some of our viewers may say. And there's a grain of truth in that. In fact, a Moscow plant named Svars assembled trolleybuses based on the articulated Ikarus in the late 80s and early 90s. A total of 60 trolleybuses were built. All were removed from service in 2004, with some transferred to Vologda, Tver and the city of Rustavi in Georgia. 2 Hungarian-built articulated trolleybuses were tested in Moscow in the 1980s, but they were never put in regular service in the Soviet capital. A third Ikarus trolleybus was imported sometime later, remaining in service until 2008. Another 20 original Hungarian trolleybuses were delivered to Chelyabinsk from Germany in 1993. An interesting feature of the Ikarus trolleybus is no ladder at the back, which made servicing the sliding trolleys something of a tricky business. The 6th position in our top 10 is taken by an articulated bus that has crossed the Sahara Desert. In 2007, a group of Hungarian globetrotters bought a 20-year-old Ikarus at an auction. The bus had previously been used as a military transport in the small Hungarian town of Natali. The bus was converted into a full-fledged expedition vehicle, complete with bedrooms, kitchens, showers, air conditioning, a bar, and even a game console. In January 2008, the Ikarus with the lucky route number 7 embarked on a long-distance journey from Budapest to the city of Bamako, the capital of Mali. The bus covered 16,000 kilometers in about a month, partly in extreme desert conditions, demonstrating tremendous reliability of Soviet-era technology. There's 5 more exotic members of the 280 family we'll tell you about in a moment. That was cutting-edge bus tech for its time, but the history of articulated buses can be traced back a little earlier. Model 280 was preceded by Model 180. Painted white with a narrow red stripe, this was the giant of a bus for its time, its rounded body shape attracting attention around the Soviet Union. It entered production in 1966 and was built until the introduction of the 200 series. The 180 series had tested horizontally located diesel under the floor and the hinge articulation. The 180 also sported a lower floor at the rear for easy loading and unloading of prams and big luggage, an idea which wasn't carried over to the 280 for some reason. The only Ikarus 180 surviving in Russia is preserved at the Moscow Transport Museum. The first articulated Ikarus bus was released in 1957 based on Model 60. In 1956, the Hungarian manufacturer bought a license for the production of articulated buses in Germany. Due to their characteristic protective curtains between the sections, buses of this type were known as accordions in the Soviet Union, after a musical instrument. Well, it's time for a ride. The powerful engine's on now, and a shiver goes through the interior. I can feel this characteristic smell of diesel fuel inside the bus. You can't sense it on video, of course, but believe me, it's here. It feels a bit weird to be traveling alone in an empty bus in the middle of the day, ignoring all bus stops along the way. People on streets are pausing to stare at this ghost from the past. And I too can't get rid of a feeling that I'm in the middle of a dream. This particular bus is from the last batch, deployed in St. Petersburg in 1997. These Euro 0 buses were equipped with a powerful turbo engine and had wide double doors. This bus was part of the fleet of bus depot number 7 in St. Petersburg, which was built specifically for Ikarus buses. Their experience with servicing Ikaruses ensured the accordions were kept in excellent technical condition up until they were written off, long after other depots had sent their Ikaruses to the junkyard. This particular bus was the last 280 to be removed from service in St. Petersburg in October 2013. 2 years later, the bus was carefully repaired by depot number 7, thanks to which we have such a unique opportunity to show it to you in action. Several bus and tram depots in St. Petersburg have taken up the noble task of restoring historic buses, trolleybuses and trams to their original condition and preserving them for future generations. A rare overseas Ikarus is on the 5th place in our top 10. In 1978, Ikarus joined forces with a Californian company called Crown Coach Corporation to build an articulated bus called Crown 286 specifically for the US. The new bus was equipped with the most powerful diesel engine ever installed on the 200 series, a Cummins developing 290 horsepower with an automatic transmission by Allison. The buses were equipped with a Detroit diesel engine for the Canadian market. However, North America was little impressed by the new bus, as the local bus market had long been divided between local manufacturers, so a little over 500 units were built from 1980 to 1986. It was believed until recently that all buses of the 286 series had been scrapped. Luckily, an enthusiast found an announcement about the sale of a Hungarian bus in a small town of Weiser, Idaho in 2018. The bus had serviced lines in Portland until 1999. He bought the historic machine for just $2,500. Come on, easy does it. Let's go.
Давай потихоньку.
Going nice and slow, nice and slow.
Хорошо, хорошо.
Go to Ikarus286.com to read the new owner's blog on bringing the bus back to its former glory. Now on to the 4th place. Meet an open-top articulated Ikarus for wildlife observation tours in the Czech town of Dvůrkrálové nad Labem. The doors were replaced with netting to prevent zebras and other animals from entering the bus. Soft seats were replaced with rigid plastic seats from the Tetra T3 tram. These seats are designed to survive bad weather. The bus actually had a twin with a classic roofed body. These Safari Ikaruses have been replaced with classic city buses adorned with a zebra livery. We've got 3 more buses in our top 10 list, but now Fyodor, it's your time again. If you were lucky enough to see Ikaruses in service all those many years ago, you might still recall an overloaded articulated bus with its trailer skewed to the left or right. Why did this happen? Well, Ikarus has a so-called floor level regulator, aka the cube, which sets the floor level depending on the load. So, in order to prevent the regulator from breaking under the load of too many passengers riding in the trailer, Ikarus drivers came up with an elegant solution. They'd install an additional row of seats near the rear wall in the standing area. 3 or 4 seats can fit in here nicely. Thus, the area where people can stand is reduced, and accordingly, the load is reduced too, and the regulator doesn't get broken. In addition to the faulty floor level regulator, which was immediately noticeable both outside and inside the bus, Ikarus also suffered from a malfunction only its driver would pay attention to. It was coaxial misalignment, with the rear wheel track not matching the front wheel track, causing the bus to sidle. The driver would show amazing skill trying to control the bus, something few passengers could truly appreciate. It was especially hard to align the bus with a bus stop. If the bus sidled to the right, it could drive over the curb at the stop. If to the left, it would stop some distance away from the curb. But this is not the worst. The drive axle and the trailer axle could misalign relative to each other, creating an angle between the tractor and the trailer during motion. As a result, it was impossible to align the bus with a stop at all. With the tractor leaning left, the driver had difficulty visually controlling entry and exit through doors 3 and 4. He had to carefully nudge the tractor to the right with the steering wheel just before braking. Needless to say, a misaligned bus at the stop did little to make the passengers happy. These window latches, just like the multicolored switches in the driver's cab, have this distinct non-Soviet feel to them. You'd never have this kind of latches on Soviet-built buses. Another big problem was the constant smell of exhaust in the passenger compartment. This smell stirs happy childhood memories today, but it would actually cause a headache in some passengers. The smell was especially strong in the rear part of the bus. The engine is in the tractor, with the exhaust pipe leading to the side, close enough to the articulation joint, whose rubber sides were often worn off and full of holes, especially at the bottom, right next to the exhaust pipe. You'd be a cool and brave kid if you dared ride standing on the turning circle inside the articulation joint. If you were lucky enough to have a speed merchant for a driver, you'd get to swing wildly with the joint. And you'd also get to look through one of these peepholes in the rubber walls as a nice bonus. Ta-da! Meet our top 3 Ikarus buses. The third place goes to an exotic railway Ikarus. Ikarus and Gens Mavak, two of Hungary's biggest transport manufacturers, joined efforts in the early 1980s to expand to Asia with a new product. Designated 725.01, the 25-meter-long two-section passenger train had 2 drivers' cabs and a compartment for 160 passengers, and was equipped with a 340 horsepower Cummins diesel. The body was borrowed from the 200 Ikarus series, but received all necessary attributes of a train. After a successful test run on the Hungarian railway, the train was rolled out on the Malaysian market, with orders placed for 5 3-section trains and 5 5-section ones. Several trains could be coupled to work as a multiple unit system. In 1992, 2 more trains were shipped to Singapore, yet because of a thin market, further production was cancelled. The second place goes to the longest articulated bus in the world. If Model 283 can be compared to XL size in clothing, then 293 is XXL. The experimental 3-section articulated bus was built in 1988, featuring not 1 but 2 junction units. The first unit was equipped with a turn limit mechanism, which prevented the bus from folding when reversing. The second unit had a classic design. The total capacity of the 22-meter-long bus was a staggering 229 passengers. The bus was tested first in Budapest, then in the ancient Hungarian city of Pech, but it failed to meet the standard certification criteria for passenger transportation. In 1992, the bus was given a more powerful diesel, the second door was moved 1 section forward, and it got some facelifting done as well. That bus was sent to Tehran, the capital of Iran, where it serviced the lines at least until 2005, alongside local trolleybuses. It was believed to have been scrapped, but fresh photos have surfaced on social media lately. The bus got some repairs and a bit of facelifting and may last for some more time. Hungarian bus makers no longer utilize the articulated design, but their developments have been borrowed by Cuba. The Guanajuato bus plant, known to specialists thanks to its exotic designs based on different Ikarus models, added a second trailer to the articulated bus to increase the total passenger capacity. But the factory-installed engine was too weak for the heavy bus, so the only unit assembled was sent to the town of Matanzas, where it might still be in active service today. Domestically built Ikarus buses have helped to satisfy Cuba's passenger transportation needs. The local Ikarus plant has helped to improve the economic situation in the first socialist nation of the Western Hemisphere. We are about to roll out the number 1 in our top 10, so have patience. But for now, let's try to recount what made Ikarus so memorable to its passengers. In addition to the already listed benefits, we can add the European quality of assembly and the large capacity, but Ikarus suffered from a bunch of issues too. For example, the passenger compartment tended to get pretty chilly or even bitterly cold in the winter. Hungary is a country blessed with a pretty warm climate year-round. The designers did their best to adapt the buses to local weather in countries it was exported to, and yet the wide doors and the often hollow articulation walls did little to keep warm air inside. Some drivers would deliberately not crank up the heater to the max, trying to get benefits from their employers for saving diesel fuel. In some cities, cooling fluid was replaced with water, leading to heater failure. The heaters required regular and qualified servicing, which wasn't always available. The dry fan Webasto heater installed in the trailer was also prone to failure, or it could be illegally removed by technicians to be used in their country houses, for example. Today, everyone with a PC can become an Ikarus 280 driver. The legendary OMSI bus simulator, first released in 2011, is a detail-attentive sandbox that allows you to modify the game world the way you wish it. Thanks to carefully crafted bosses and maps, OMSI has gained a strong cult following in the post-Soviet countries. An OMSI livestream can attract bigger audiences than some popular local influencers. Okay, back to the Ikarus 280 top 10. Ikarus 695 easily tops the bill as the most sophisticated articulated bus ever built. Doesn't it look like a spaceship? Aeropelt was an experimental transportation program initiated in Hungary in the 1970s. Several leading transportation research institutes and the vehicle manufacturers Chapel and Ikarus were involved in the development of a universal bus airport passenger service. PELT, which stands for Passengers and Luggage Together, planned to develop a bus that would take passengers from the terminal to the plane, while also serving as a luggage transporter and an air stair. The luggage hold is located under the passenger compartment. When the bus arrives at the plane, the driver activates a telescopic set of stairs for passengers to board the plane, while the luggage leaves the hold in special bins and is loaded into the luggage compartment of the plane. What a true marvel of bus engineering! These unique photos confirm that the Hungarian manufacturers even planned to implement the concept of a shuttle service between downtown Moscow and Sheremetyevo International Airport. However, it would have been too difficult to carry out board passport control and luggage inspection. In the end, Ikarus 695 proved to be too costly for mass production. The program was cancelled in 1986 with only 2 prototypes built. These images show their ultimate fate. In the next episode, we will travel to the snow-covered city of Arzamas to ride in one of the very last 677 Soviet buses still in service as of 2019, both on urban and suburban routes. unique filming in the bus depot, on the streets and in the snowy suburbs. Don't miss a Trains and Transport exclusive. Please like, subscribe and comment. See you in the next episode of Trains and Transport.
В следующих сериях проекта «Автобусная».